Hello, Trish here with Divine Journey Yoga in Tucson, Arizona. Today we are going to work on our core and the solar energy of I am, so hum. So let's go ahead and get started. So keeping the knees drawn in just for a couple more breaths, you might be rocking a little just to feel the lumbar spine. When we work on the core, which we will be doing some of today, it always is also about the low back. So if your low back has been tired, take it easy, go slow, but hopefully it will get a little more juice, a little more energy and warmth, which can really help ease pain and tightness there. Let's take another breath in, and on the exhale, squeeze your knees in as close as you can get them to your chest. And then slowly let the legs stretch out one by one, taking the arms over the head as well. Nice and long and slow, and just stretch and point. Get the back arching off the floor. The tailbone, you can even kind of push it down a little bit. And then the hands can come down and the knees can step onto the floor. And now rock the knees with the feet grounded and the knees bent so that your hips feel a little bit of the tug from the knees as they're rocking side to side. We call this windshield wipers. Let's see what we'd like to do with our arms. Let's open them out wider and wider. Palms facing up. You might wiggle your fingers or squeeze your fingers into your palms and then open them wide, little fists and stretches for the hands as you're rocking those knees. Good. Come on back to center, and let's just widen our feet, just as wide as you want them to go. Take a moment, walk your heels in as close as you want to get them to your butt. And then just lift your tailbone off the floor a little bit and set it down. So this isn't as much core as it is waking up the thighs. Squeezing the glutes, just lifting up and down. We're just barely lifting the hips up and setting them down, so we're not moving into full bridge yet. Just to see how that feels. Squeeze the muscles of the legs as you lift slightly, or just maybe a couple inches. Good, a couple more times. Try to breathe into your belly as you're finding your movement here. Good, let's do one more time. And set the hips back down, rock the knees a couple times. Let's actually pick the feet up, keeping the knees bent, roll the knees around in big circles. You're always welcome to grab hold of your legs or help with your hands in any way you like. We're gonna move into our core rock. So go ahead and come to center for just a minute, wiggle those toes, those feet. Let your arms be wherever you want, especially a little wider. So they don't have to be right next to you, but they can be over your head or out wide. And I want to have lots of room for the legs because I'm going to rock the legs almost all the way to one side. I'm going to hover above the floor for a breath. And then I'm going to rock the other way, exhaling through center. Yeah. And then as you're holding toward the other side, take a breath in and out. Take your breath in, and on the exhale, roll all the way to the other side. And you can mix your breath up a little bit if you want to. When using the core, it is thought that it's safest to breathe out when you're engaging the pull. But if you know that you're okay and you just want to see how it feels, you can rock and breathe however you'd like. So just keep moving into that stretch and pull. You can feel the core turning on a little bit. If you want to make it harder, you can open your knees because the weight of your legs will increase the pull, but be gentle. That's a lot for the core that we're just getting started. Good. Let's just do a couple more times, side to side. And then we'll set the feet down and let's just rest. I'm going to set my feet down a little wider and let the knees come toward each other. They may not touch yet. That's okay. Take a couple deep breaths, just letting that belly and low back soften. Yeah, we're just going to take the arms up in the air and just move elbows and wrists. Sweeping the arms around in little circles. Eventually you can take the arms over the head and stretch through the upper body, getting the shoulder blades moving on the floor. You might kind of swing the arms side to side right above the floor so you get a little upper curving there. Good. And then I'm just going to breathe. Inhale, the arms are over the head, nice and long, and exhale, let them float down. You might just let them touch your thighs or the floor, and then inhale over the head, and exhale, let them float down. Yeah. Good. Nice. Okay, go ahead and let your arms come down, and we're just going to pick our feet up, keeping the knees bent, and lift the feet just to the height of the knees so that they look like they're sitting in a chair. It looks like you're on your back, but you're sitting in a chair. So this is a 90-degree angle, and you can just kind of flutter your feet a little bit. You should right away feel your core. Yes, nice and strong. And you can just hang out here, breathing, feeling that core. This is pretty simple core work right here. If you want to get more involved, you could stretch a leg out on an angle, and then the other leg. You can do both legs. I like doing one at a time. And I'm just having my hands on my belly because I can feel the strength there. Yes. And you might go back to that mantra, I am, and fill in the blank. Nice. Couple more breaths. Couple more movements. Good. And then let's soften. Let's let the legs come down. And I'm going to straighten out nice and slow with the legs long. Yep, let's take the arms over as well for one more full body stretch. Nice and long, yeah. And then let's get down into the hip joint itself and up the hamstrings. I'm going to use my strap, just somewhere around here. Wrapping the strap around the right foot to start us off. I'm just going to leave the left foot on the floor. You're welcome to stretch the left leg out anytime. I'm just going to start to play right away, just kind of a little bit of a gentle tug, bending the knee as the foot gets closer to me, and then letting it straighten out and float away. Keep the low back flat to the floor so you're really engaging the core as you're moving your leg here. That's kind of a double duty here. We're moving the leg and we're flattening the back. Good. That takes a lot of energy to flatten the back like that. Go ahead and bring the leg to a spot that you like with just the right amount of stretch up the back of your leg, and then just let it open wider really slowly. Just letting yourself experience what's going on in the back of that strap leg. Flat foot because you're pulling on the strap a little bit. Keep the low back strong and grounded to the floor. And let's not go very far out so that we keep both sides of the back completely steady. And then go ahead and bring the leg slowly back into center. And then I'm going to bend my knee a lot. I'm going to even let the strap kind of rest down on the kneecap. And I'll stretch the other leg out of the way if it's not already. And I'm going to roll this knee over the body. I'll even take the hand that's under, on the outside there, and I'll tug the knee down toward the floor. So this is a really big stretch right across that top hip and thigh, outer edge, glute thing, the IT band there. And you can play here with your strap. Once you get into your twist, you can kind of let the knee bend and swing out, in and out a little bit. The foot moving. Yeah, being gentle as you reach its full stretch, because that's going to really tug on your back. So be gentle there. Keep your belly a little bit pulled in to support. And try to breathe. Yeah. And then let's come on back to center. And we'll lift the strap leg up one more time. And I want to push the foot into the strap and pull the strap down and count to 10 in your head while you're pushing and pulling. And release. I probably counted faster than you or slower, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and switch legs. Go ahead and pick up the foot off the floor and slide it right into the strap. That's a nice way to do it. The free leg is now probably bent, maybe stretched out. We're just going to kind of play here, just like on the other side, a little bit of bending of the knee as the foot comes closer, straightening of the leg as it moves away. So we're kind of just telling the leg, we're coming in, we're going to be pulling some muscle here. Just start starting to let it go. But remember now we're moving back into that flattening of the low back. So it's an actual pressure down into the floor across your back of your waist. Good. Couple more breaths. Nice. And then let's come to our spot that we like, a little bit of stretch, just enough, not too much. And start to really slowly open the leg outward. And remembering you're pushing down into the floor, into the low back so that both sides of the back stay grounded. And we're not going to go too wide. We're going to take a breath once you get kind of to that outer edge, wherever your edge is. And then you're slowly bringing it back in. So you're using your core to move the leg as well. Nice. And if you're like me, my shoulders are tightening up. I'm going to try to loosen them, try to soften the neck. There we go. Come to center, bend the knee a lot. Maybe let the strap rest on the kneecap as you roll the leg over. So straighten out the bottom leg real quick. Roll the leg over the body into the twist. And then begin to play with the opening and closing of the knee, the swinging of the foot. Yeah, feeling that twist right up that outer edge of the hip and the thigh. Gotta have a little bit of support in the core here. Let's take another breath. And roll slowly onto your back. And let's pick the foot up off the floor and slide it into the strap so the legs are side by side. And just open them a bit. And let's actually see what happens if we take a block and place it between the knees. So the block is kind of in its flattest place right between the knees. You can also put it between your shins or even between your thighs. I'm going to actually move it up between my shins here because I want to engage a little bit more of the core. It's this base of the core that we're engaging when we have the block between the legs. Good, the pelvic floor. And I'm just going to pull the legs in and out, just gentle, not a lot, not overstretching. Good. And then I'm going to leave my legs up wherever they feel good, where I can kind of balance them. And I'm going to keep the block between the legs as I remove the strap. So now my legs are doing all the work. You can hold on behind the legs if you want to or need to. And you can start to bend your knees, keeping the block steady. My block is still between my shins. And we're moving back into that chair pose here with the knees bent and the feet about as high as the knees. And I'm going to take my hands off the edges of the mat and I'm going to do that core rocking again while I'm holding the block, while my knees are bent. I'm not going to go very far at all. I'm just going to rock over onto the hip that is under me there, just toward the edge of it, and then to the other side. And you can feel the back is nice and strong and flat against the ground. Good. Couple of times, just really feeling into all of those little muscles in there. Our core is so deep. We have so many layers of abdominal muscles. You know, people say a 12-pack or 8-pack or whatever abs. There's like 16 layers. You can have a 16-pack. We're just touching into those today, just making sure they're still alive in there. You know, use it or lose it, right? We don't want to forget all those beautiful core muscles all the way to the edges. Good. A couple more. If you're still going, that's great. You can always stop when you're done. Good. And I want to come back to center just for a moment and leave the legs where they are. You're also welcome to put the feet on the floor or lift the legs up if that feels better to you. I want to take my hands behind my head and cradle the base of the skull right under that curve. And I'm going to use my head and my chest to lift my head and shoulders off the floor. I'm just going to squeeze the glutes here and breathe. And you can support the head a little more. You can use your shoulder blades. You can kind of move them around a little bit. Just kind of getting that shaking going. Good. One more breath. I'm laughing at myself and I'm actually doing this. And then release, relax. Let's take the block out and take a little shavasana. So just breathing, letting it all go. Nice work. We're going to take our time, Breathing nice and slow, maybe a little bit of just gentle movement that feels good to you, maybe one leg and the other. We're going to roll over onto our side, and you might bring your strap with you just in case you need it or want it. So as you roll over, try to stack your knees so that one is right on top of the other, and your hips are also one on top of the other. Yeah, you're gonna scoot around a little bit. You can put a block or blanket or your arm under your head. And we're just gonna open with our heart twist just right away. The top arm rolls back, and try to keep your hips stacked. Usually I say loosen up your legs and let your shoulder go back, but let your shoulder hang rather than touching the floor. And keep your hips stacked. So you're gonna kind of push forward, just even mentally, energetically pushing forward with your knee and your top hip so that they don't roll back. And you can just pull. What we're doing is we're just pulling the skin across the belly and the chest. Yeah, it feels a little different. And you're kind of having to hold the core because you're stabilizing those hips so nicely. A couple more breaths. Whew. Okay, and then we'll roll back on our side, and let's do a little flow here with our legs. So we'll start by pulling the knee into the chest, the top knee. Just kind of roll the ankle around a little bit, roll the foot. Take a breath in, and on the exhale, push the foot back behind you. Point the kneecap down to the end of the mat. You can just point your finger towards your knee, or you can point at your foot. You're still breathing, you can grab the foot. But if you're grabbing the foot, see how the knee sometimes lifts up in order to grab the foot? Drop that knee back down in line with the hip so you're nice and level. And you got to pull that belly in to keep strong here. Keep breathing. Maybe one more breath. Inhaling first. And on the exhale, swing the leg forward and then lift it up in the air. Yeah, and it can hang out here. I always find my bottom hip is the one that's going to cramp here. This is where you might use a strap and get it around that foot. I want to hang out here for a couple breaths as well. Get a nice tug, but play with your belly pulling in, your tailbone kind of pushing down toward the end of the mat. So you're nice and flat across your back. Yeah, and you're just getting into a little bit different angle of the leg. One more breath here. And then we'll just slowly let the leg go all the way down. And we're going to let the big toe touch the end of the mat and stretch. Nice. And then we're just going to do that flow kind of on our own a couple more times. Starting with the knee coming into the chest. And whenever you move the leg, try to let that be on the exhale. And you'll just go nice and slow from the knee into the chest. You're pushing, then the knee goes down or the foot goes back. Yep. In this back bend, pull the belly in. Yeah, it's going to tighten it up a little bit. And then, of course, that final upward stretch. You can bend the knee a lot. You don't have to touch the toes. And then the toe going down to the floor. And you might try going backwards. You can go up, back up, and then down. And if you already have your hand on your shin, sometimes it's easier to move into the bow. And you never have to touch those toes. You can just be pushing the leg back. But as you do that, pull the belly in. That's going to tuck a little bit and pull the work down into the core rather than keeping it kind of too much around that low back. We want to balance it out. Good. And then the knee in. And then let's go back to rest. Good. Take a couple of deep breaths just to let the body soften again. Feels like we've worked one side pretty well. Let's just do a couple of clamshells while we're here with the inner edges of the feet together. Lift that top knee a couple times. But again, keep that top hip directly above that lower hip so it doesn't roll back. You can even put your hand right there in that lumbar, on that hip bone. Good. We're just creating a lot of warmth and energy in the thigh there. And it's working its way up into the core. You're probably already pulling your belly in. That's nice. Good. Let's just take 2 more breaths here. And softening again. I'm thinking that I just want to switch ends of my mat so I can go onto the other side. You're welcome to roll over. I'm just going to do the other side of that flow. If you want your strap, you can bring it with you. You can actually have your strap attached the whole time, if you can figure that out. So right as we get onto our second side, we're going to stack the knees, stack the hips, keep them really strong, and take the top arm back. So we're hanging the shoulder back. We're not letting this hip roll back at all. We're pushing it forward actually to really maintain that edge. And it's just a different kind of pull right through that rib cage. Good. Keep the breath. Keep the awareness of the breath. Good. And then restack the shoulders. Breathing there for a moment, and you can move into your flow. Knee in, foot back, just reaching it back, leg up. Just finding where it works best for you. Maintaining your nice strong core, especially in that low, in that curve. We'll go back there in a minute. I'm gonna just point my toe down to the end of the mat now, stretch. And then come back into the knee, coming into the chest, and then this is where we're gonna pull the belly in. When we push the toe back, we're gonna pull the belly in so that we flatten out the lumbar spine. It's not flat, it's never gonna be flat, but it's just strong. Yeah, good. And then with that core engagement, you're lifting the leg up. Nice. And down, and then we're gonna go backwards this time, but I hope you're doing your own thing if you want to. Always welcome. Lift it up, bend it as the knee points down and the foot points back, and you're thinking about that level again, bringing the knee down in line with the hip joint. Good. And finally, the knee coming in toward the chest. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and roll onto our stomachs. Let's take some deep belly breaths, just resting. I love to rock my heels, but you might like stillness. Just listen to your intuition there. And while we're here on our belly, there's some great core work for the back. You could simply lift your head and shoulders and feel that engagement pressing the pubic bone down into the floor, and the toes might reach out and stretch, and the legs might lift a little. They do not have to lift high. And maybe your arms stay low on the ground or they float up. You can actually fly a little bit here. This is our locust. I think it was mentioned earlier that the core classes have a lot of the osteoporosis work in them. So it's a nice crossover. So you're just enjoying that stretch until you're not, and then you're done and you can rest. And I want to stay on the floor just a little longer to really pull into the quads, the front of the legs, the top legs. So what I want to do is just turn my head to one side, so I'm facing one long edge of the mat, and bend the knee on that side sideways so that it's coming directly off my hip at a 90-degree angle, and the foot might be straight down, it could be in or out a little more. We're just opening that one hip. This is our half squished frog, right? And again, breathing right into the belly. We're touching into the second chakra, sacral energy there. We're getting a little curve in the low back. Be gentle and just let the breath flow. And then the arm that's behind you, start stretching it straight above along the long edge of the mat. So it's stretching upward, outward. And the long leg keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And we're actually going to roll onto that side. We're going to Go back onto our side, but the knee is going to drag in so that we can not stack the hips, but the top hip will be much forward of the bottom hip. Good. And we're going to move into cat pulling its tail here. You can just rest here. This is a nice stretch. You can even just play with the arm on top, kind of moving it back and forth a little. Some circles. You're getting into your twist. This is like the foothills of this twist, right? We're moving up the mountain. If you want to bend your knee and point your toe, if the toes are there, that's great. You can also use a strap to wrap around your foot. And then if you're going to keep going up this mountain into the difficulty, you can use the toe that's on the floor in front of you to help push your knee off the ground and roll yourself towards your back. But the knee is going to pull the opposite direction, and you can even kind of kick that leg out in front of you a little bit. So we're just really twisting and stretching that bottom leg as well. See if you can breathe, and try to play with pulling the tailbone down just a little bit. You don't have to go overboard here. Just a gentle pulling in of the belly. Good. Nice. One more breath. And then you can lift your head and shoulders, just lengthen the legs and roll back on your stomach. And you can turn your head the other direction, slide the new knee sideways, coming into the other side. We're gonna stay on our kind of forward rocked side here first for a couple of breaths. That top hip is forward. Yeah, good. So you want to take a moment long enough so that the glutes can really soften and the body can get ready. And then you can start to lengthen out that bottom arm if it's not already there. Lengthen the bottom leg down, rolling more and more onto your side, opening the top shoulder, maybe letting that front knee rise up a little bit so you can roll a little more. You kind of roll right off the mat. I'm rolling onto my strap. I feel that pull. You can add, of course, that bottom leg. Each of the pieces is kind of optional. There's no reason why you need to go up all the way up the mountain today. Good. Beautiful. We're rolling back on our belly nice and slow. And we could finish up here with a little back bend. We can do our Sphinx pose. If you need to skip a back bend, don't worry about it. You need to pay close attention to your body and what your needs are. Let's take 3 deep breaths. You might take a moment, maybe placing thumbs in the middle of your forehead, or your forehead on your arms or your back of your hands, and just kind of massage that third eye point. That's our intuition point, our wisdom. This is really the place from which we can answer that question of, I am what? Good. And then as you feel ready, you're just going to start to push yourself up and back into child's pose. And this is kind of where we started when we started the class, on our backs, knees drawn in. But this time, please make sure your knees are wide enough for your belly to come in between them so that your back doesn't get rounded, but it gets to stay nice and flat. So we're going from a back bend to a flat back. Nice. And just feel the body as you breathe here. And let's actually spend some time here breathing into our back. So we're doing back breathing now. As you inhale, imagine your back can rise like a balloon. And you can kind of pull the chest in and up as well. Yeah, as you inhale. And on the exhale, you can let everything drop and lengthen through the crown of the head. Kind of pull the shoulders down the back on that exhale. Good. Let's do that a couple more times. Inhaling to round. Just a gentle rounding. It's almost more about puffing than pulling up. Good. Yeah. Exhaling. Rolling those shoulders back. One more time. Okay, let's find a table pose. Maybe a blanket under the knees. And spread those fingers nice and wide so that you can have a moment to really feel the ground with your hands, your palms, your fingertips. Maybe do a little side to side with the hips here. Now, if you ever want to stay off your knees, you could stand up and put your hands on the seat of a chair or a bed or something like that, the couch, a table. You know, you have lots of things around the house there. Hips side to side, and then some big circles with the hips. So we're moving the knee joints and the shoulders as well, and the wrists, feeling good. We're gonna do a little bit of side planking, so not too much. What I'd like to do is just walk the knees over to one edge of the mat and kind of sit down on my hip on the other edge of the mat. So I walked my knees to the left, I'm sitting down on my right hip, and the knees are gonna point forward. I'm gonna have my feet stacked, yeah. I'm leaning on that hand, the right hand that's in line with my right hip. This is just a moment here of waiting. Now you can also come down onto your elbow, if that feels better to get off your wrist. You can actually come all the way down onto your side and practice this. But I'm gonna try to stay up high. And all we're gonna do is roll our weight into our knees and try to lift our butt up off the floor just a little bit. You can use the other hand to help as well. So it's just a little bit of a lift and lower. And if you're doing it on your elbow, same thing, lift and lower. If you're all the way down on the floor because you wanna stay off your elbow and shoulder, it's really just a roll forward and back. You can't really get up off the floor, but you're still triggering the same energy right around the core there, okay? Go ahead and come on down for a seat, for your nice seat again. And you'll slowly come up and just let the top knee lift up as you slowly switch the legs to the other side. Yeah, watch your low back, keep it nice and strong. Stack the knees, pointing them forward. Feet are stacked. Leaning into that shoulder or elbow, watching the wrist, and then rocking that energy up and down. That's a lot. That's the outer edge of that core. You can feel how, I can feel how that does not get used very often. Nice. And the belly has to stay strong here to support the low back curve. Good. And again, of course, all those different layers or levels of the arm, shoulder. Good. And then come on down. And we're going to swing the legs back to the other side. So we're going back to that first side. And we're going to come to table again. Right where we started. Whew. Let's just take a moment to breathe. Curl the toes. You might take a few cat-cows here, or you might kind of lift into a down dog and then back to table a few times. Just to feel that energy, opening up the legs, getting off the knees for a breath or two. It's not too long. Good, and we're gonna do another variation of side plank. So this one we're gonna stay on our knees. I'm gonna lean into my right knee and my right hand, and I'm gonna pivot the right knee so that the right foot kind of kicks back behind me, toes curled under. And I'm gonna roll onto that side. So right hand, right knee, and then the left leg stretches out and the left arm reaches up. So this is supported side plank. Yeah, pull that strong belly in and play with lengthening from the pubic bone up through the crown rather than letting yourself pull or back, have too much of a sway back. Pull, but pull from like the pelvic floor all the way up through the core, through the head, yeah. If you wanted, you could also play with the leg there. That's optional. Yeah, one more big breath. You can be on your elbow as well, sorry. And we're rolling back to table. And right to the other side. So dropping the left knee, kick the left foot back, stretch the right leg out, roll, and play there. But again, pulling. As you pull, what happens is that bottom hip kind of pulls down toward the end of the mat. It opens up something right through the core. Nice. Good. One more breath. And roll it down. Nice. Okay, so now we're going to add to that. Actually, let's take a moment for a down dog here if you like, or a plank, just to get off the knees. Open that joint up. And we're going to do on our hands and knees right now what in a minute we're going to do standing. So we'll start on hands and knees. Make sure everything feels okay. If you need to be off your wrists, you can always be on elbows or on blocks. I'm just going to stretch the right leg out long, straight behind me. And I'm going to try to keep my hips level so that if someone said
a tea tray on my back. It wouldn't slide anyway, just be flat, good. So this is kind of like a warrior 3. We're holding the core, we're holding the weight of that leg with our back and our belly, and the hips are level. If you want to open into that half moon, we're going to lean into, my right leg is stretched back, okay? Leaning into my left hand and my left knee, and the left foot might pivot back so I have some support behind me, a little kickstand, and I'm going to roll sideways again. But this time maybe the leg is up in the air. You can let the toe touch the floor if that feels better. So we've moved into our half moon position, or here on our side we call it supported plank again. And then we're back to center, resting down. Maybe a child's pose, you can be on your belly, seated, whatever feels good. Okay. Core, as promised. Goodness gracious. Sometimes the end of that statement, I am, is I am crazy, which is also good. It's part of being human, right? Okay, let's come back to table. Make sure you've twisted your wrists a little bit. And we're stretching out the left leg this time. It doesn't matter which leg you're doing. I'm just trying to make it clearer. And level the hips. Really let that left hip that's connected to the long leg, let it be right beside the other hip. And that's a pretty intense body awareness to have, to be able to lower that down. But what it does is it pulls the belly. And that's the warrior 3 energy there. And as you're ready to move into your side, you'll kick that bottom foot back, pivoting on the knee that's on the floor. Roll to the right hand, right knee. Open up. This is our half moon. Yeah, and the breath is there. The breath is there to support us and guide us. You're welcome to let the toe touch the floor there. Good. And rolling forward to rest. Feel free to sigh. Nice work. Make sure you're twisting out those wrists. And we're just going to take our time slowly coming to a standing position. However you'd like to get there. Sometimes it's a down dog to a forward fold, or anything else you like. Clearing the mat just to stand. And maybe take a little walk, maybe look out a window, readjust the clothes. Just take a moment to be not doing yoga momentarily in the middle of our yoga time. Maybe swing the arms a little bit. We're going to need some energy for this. Now, I have a chair here that I'm going to use. You don't have to use a chair, but I would recommend using something, a wall, a door. Just don't use something that moves. Don't use a swivel chair. Don't use your dog. Good, yes. So I'm going to put my chair on my mat. Apologies for not reminding us all to get chairs earlier. If you want to go grab a chair, feel free. I'm not going to use it quite yet. We'll do just a little movement, just a little side to side. Yeah, I want to make sure that the knees feel okay. So I'm actually going to, if you need to, you can walk over to some things because we're going to lean into one leg just for a moment and come up onto the toes of the other foot and just kind of swing the knee a little side to side. Yeah. And then with the weight still in that standing leg, just kick the knee in and the foot in and out, just bending that knee in and out. Good. And then if you want to, you can do the swivel of the lower leg as well. Yeah, getting into the edges of the knee joint. And then the other side. So leaning in, keep the toe on the floor at first and just kind of rock back and forth. So this is of course hip, but it's kind of a holding of the knee joint. Good. And then the kicking. Nice. And then the swiveling. You might do both directions a couple times. Okay. And then when you're ready, we're going to come over to our support. If you're using a wall, you can just put your hands right in front of you on the wall. If you're using a chair, I'm going to plant my hands on the chair. If you're using a wall, actually what you're going to want to do is walk back so that your hands and your shoulders and your hips are almost all in line. They could be a little higher. So you could use the back of a chair as well, be more like that. I like my hands on the chair, so we're going to do that first. And just like we just did from hands and knees, I'm going to lean into left hand, left foot, and swing the right foot back. I'm just going to play with it. I want to level the back. So you gotta really pull the belly in here, and you're just gonna play. Maybe tap the toe, lift it up. And you're definitely not trying to get the leg up high, because when you do, you'll notice if you try to lift that leg, you have to lift the hip. And I don't want the hip lifted yet. Good. And we're kind of waiting for that standing leg to get pretty tired. And as it starts to tire, you're gonna lean into the left hand, left leg, give it a little bend so it's not locked, and begin to lift that right hip up. And the hand, of course, both hands can stay on the mat, on the floor, not the floor or the mat, on the chair or your support. Or you can open. This is full crescent. I'd love to have a chair for this. Stretch the leg down, maybe take the arm over the head and reach as well. And slowly come back to table. Good. And we're going to stand up. So just go ahead and walk your hands up the body, nice flat back. Take a moment to kind of rock the hips. Move them around. Maybe you can also march, just keeping the fluid moving through those joints of the knee and the hip. And then we're back to table, or table at the wall or on a chair. Leaning into right hand, right foot this time. Stretching the left leg back, leaving the back level. Yeah. Nice and level. And you're just kind of waiting for that leg to tire. It doesn't take very long. And if you're lifting and lowering, you're firing that core, kind of rocking it. It's almost like pelvic tilts there, especially if the hips are really nice and flat and level. Good. And whenever you're ready, you'll roll that hip up into that half moon. This is where the leg can go higher. Yeah. And the full pose, of course, is right angles here, but who cares about the full pose? The whole power of the pose is in the belly, in the length of the spine, the reaching back of the leg. Try to be aware as you're coming in and out. Try to be aware of the low back, opening it up, pulling the belly in nice and strong. Just falling everywhere. And that's okay. As you're falling, you're catching, and you're using all those muscles along the way, which is great. Nice. We'll just take another breath. And slowly release. And stand on up. Nice flat back. You could keep your chair if you want to for Shavasana. You can put your legs up over it. I might do that. I'm just going to take another little walk, a little march. And we'll do a quick cross body kind of a nervous system regulation. So as you're marching, just take the opposite hand to the thigh of the knee you're lifting. Yeah. And tap it side to side. Coming back into steady breathing. It's great to get the heart rate up like that with our lifts of the legs. There we go. Let's take 2 more breaths. And we'll take one big stretch up. Really nice. Roll those wrists a little bit. And then you can turn in either direction of your mat and just take your forward fold. Nice flat back again. Bend the knees. As you settle in, you're welcome to try a little moment of supported chair or skier pose here. And then we're going to step down and have a seat. So we're just going to sit. You're welcome to just plop right down. I love to sit on a blanket. Always a quick reminder for that. We'll do a seated twist. Nice. And maybe we'll sneak a little pigeon in. I don't know why pigeon is nice to add to a core class, because it's getting us down below the core. Just a couple of pelvic tilts here. Just belly strong. Can you keep your belly in while you rock your tailbone a little bit? Yeah. And then maybe one leg stays in, one leg stretches wide. And we'll do a little twist. We're going to twist away from the long leg. We're going to twist toward the bent knee. As you're twisting, if you cross your arm over, you can kind of slide the fingers around the thigh of the bent knee and use it as a gentle pull. And you're just going to pull the heart back. You're not trying to drag the hips. The hips and the belly button turns a little, but the hips are mostly forward there. And then there's this upward lift of the heart, the neck, the head. Deep breaths. As you turn forward, keep your back upright, tall and straight, and just lean sideways toward the hip of the long leg. I'm not turned yet into the long leg. I'm just going directly sideways off the hip first. Yeah, I can feel the core there. And then I'll take the hand over to the leg. So now I've kind of turned and I'm opening the chest. You can add the arm. And a deep breath there. Well, hello. And then go ahead and sit up. And I'm going to take the long leg and tuck it back because I'm moving toward my pigeon on this side. I'm going to lean my belly toward the thigh of the bent knee and start to lie down in my sloppy pigeon. Hello, kitty. You're going to sit by me. Feel free to prop your head up on your hands or a block. As you're breathing, this is a nice deep organ massage. Yes, I love you. And then go ahead and sit up. When your cat's tail starts messing up your hair. All right, tuck that leg in and open the new leg out. Good. And the first thing we're going to try is the twist. So upright, tall spine. Turn away from the long leg toward the bent knee. I like the little pull that happens inside the long leg here too, but keep lifting up so that this is a really upright twist. You're welcome to look, turn and look, either direction. And then back to center, staying upright, really that almost the lift kind of floating us up here. We're going to directly lean sideways first. Feel the core energy that has to kind of maintain our stability there. That feels good. And then the bottom hand sweeps toward the long leg so that the top shoulder starts to roll back and we can open that arm. Yep. And lifting up, you're using your core. Every time you move here, we're going to tuck the long leg back. You can leave it open if you prefer that. I'm just going to lay the belly down on that bent knee, thigh right there, the inner edge of the leg. You can let the head come down or prop up. And we'll just take 2 or 3 more deep breaths. Walking ourselves up, we're going to finish on our backs with a gentle flow for the hips. So go ahead and lay all the way back. Lay, lie, proper grammar. And pause. As you settle your back, feel what is happening in your hips and your back, your curves. Your back curves. Take a couple more breaths, just letting the body slowly realize that it's back to full supported floor support. Good. And then we'll go ahead and draw the knees into the chest. Maybe hold on, give yourself a little squeeze. Let's hold on to the right knee as we inhale, the left leg goes up in the air. Exhaling, the left leg lowers down to the floor, and I'm going to let it rest. You can let it hover if you want more work still. I'm just going to let it rest. On the next inhale, the bent knee goes wide open. And on the exhale, it crosses over the body into a knee over twist. And you don't even have to go very far, just squeezing the air out. Good. Inhale, the leg goes open again.
And then on the exhale, we're pulling all the knees back into the chest. So both knees come back in. Good. Holding on to the left knee now. Inhale the right leg up. Exhale, let it lower. Take the full breath for the full movement. On the next eventual inhale, open the bent knee wide. On the exhale, cross it over into the knee over twist. Squeeze the air out. Nice. Inhale it back open again. And then both knees come back into the chest for that final exhale. And that's our movement practice. We're going to move into Shavasana now. If there's a little more you'd like to do, feel free. I always want to recommend legs up a wall or over a chair. So I'm going to use my chair here. And to get up, get your legs up. What works best is to like sit next to whatever you're using. And then engage your core, keeping your back flat as you lift those legs and settle into the Shavasana of your choice. Goodness, that feels so good. We've got a full 5 minutes. Please take as much of it as you can. And I do have just a quick guided meditation or a guide to the So Hum mantra if you'd like to go back to that. Always, every time, we're coming back to the rhythmic tide of the breath, the tidal rhythm, that in and out. The yogic mantra So Hum is not only a reflection of the sound of the breath, but also carries a contemplative meaning. I am that. Here, that refers to all of creation, all breath, all life, breathing us. So as you're enjoying the rhythm of your breath, you can begin the mantra, breathing in. As you inhale, silently say so to yourself. And as you exhale, say hum. And you can even make the sounds as well. And once the so hum rhythm has been established, you can begin to contemplate the meaning. As you inhale the mantra so, you can say to yourself, I am, connecting to your essential self. Contemplate the source of your breath. Where is it coming from? Through visualization, contemplate the 5 billion human beings and countless creatures on earth being fed by the same tidal rhythm of breath. And as you exhale, hum, you can inwardly say that or all that is. Feel how your exhalation releases you into the expanse around you, visualizing your exhale leaving your body through your nose or your lips, merging back into the atmosphere, back into the infinity, back into all that is. And I'll just finish with our chant Rama Da Sa, Sa Say, So Hum. Sun, moon, earth and sky, unending sky, I am. Sa
still on your back. You can just slowly begin to move your way back up to seated. And we'll finish with an Om, that sound that is inside of everything. Just breathing in nice and deep. Exhaling, we say Om. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.